Oh my God.
Hi, everybody. It's Bob here, and we've just started with the Crazy TV Talk special. We've got a bunch of people from Whatever Linda. If you don't know what Whatever Linda is, you definitely have to get your life together and check it out. Go on Facebook. We've been blasting out a bunch of stuff, and it's definitely worth checking out. We are doing this for the Vancouver Web Fest series that we've been doing. Before we get into too many details, I think I should drag kicking and screaming, not my salubrious co-host, Jay Dean. What's going
Hey,
on,
Bob.
dude?
It's going well. I'm so happy to be here as always. Happy to be invited by you into the pool again for another adventure with some amazing creators of an amazing show. If you aren't binge watching this show right now, there's something wrong with you, and you need to be examined, and you need to get to whateverlinda.com. 10 episodes, amazing everything, acting. There's going to be plenty of time for me to gush later. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here today. Say hello, do a little intro yourself, and let's get flying. Go ahead, Hannah.
So you're going to start with Matt or Hannah? What do you want to do?
We'll start with me. We'll start with this lady. The Sandwich Center. My name is Hannah Cheesman. I play Linda on Whatever Linda, and I also co-created it, co-wrote it, and that's who I be.
Cool.
And hello, my name is Matt Eastman, and I was the director on Whatever Linda.
Hi, my name is Kevin Saffer, and I'm one of the executive producers on the project.
Cool. Now you have a couple more people coming in later in the show. Can you tell them who they are and what they did?
Indeed. Julian Zotti, the other co-creator, along with Hannah, should be joining us. He is at a play rehearsal, I believe, so he's he's in the theater, but he will be joining us, and possibly, we're not sure. The question mark is Mackenzie Donaldson, who is a co-executive producer on the show. He might be flying in as well.
Hey, and now I know the question on everybody's minds that are Crazy TV Talk fans is what is the type of wine that you're drinking?
Oh, funny. Do that, eh? Go ahead, Kevin.
I'm actually not quite sure. It was in the studio fridge, and I grabbed whatever was there and looked cold.
I think it's the Ontario brand.
Yeah.
It's you can get it in the wine rack, which is open till 11 here, which is really great because with the LCBO and our privatized wine sales, it's tricky to get wine late at night.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, there you go, folks. If you go to Ontario, please bring your own wine. All right, the way we're going to do this is I'll ask a question, then G-Dean's going to ask a question just to keep things moving along. So, Matt, I had an opportunity to chat with you a little earlier today discussing some technical stuff, but we had a wonderful little chat about what it was like putting that show together on the editorial side, because really I'm comparing to something like almost Breaking Bad level as far as the content's concerned, but you didn't have the 45 minutes to work it in and do all the wonderful stuff they did, but you still were able to pull it off. Let's talk a little bit about what it was like trying to edit down to 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely it was super tricky. But I will say this: Hannah and Julian created some great scripts that were pretty tight and not actually that far from what you see. I believe initially it was going to be 9 8-minute episodes, and what it kind of netted out in the end as was 10 6-minute episodes. So there was a lot of exploration in the edit, but it wasn't. I don't think it was a huge departure from where Hannah and Julian were in terms of like, at the very beginning. But there was definitely some changes in terms of like saying, what's the end of the episode? What's the cliffhanger that's going to make you want to come back for episode 3? I think that was the big question, and there was a lot of sort of give and take and pull on that. But I think the key thing with editing, it was just tightening it up, realizing that every second was valuable. And this wasn't a, mumblecore experiment with kind of a Helvetica titles at the beginning, at the end, all natural light, 3 people in a room. This is heavily scored. I would say that working with the composers was probably one of the trickiest things. It was like over 70 music cues. So just the back and forth of using temp music and then swapping in, the real stuff, and then going back and forth with the composer and just tightening it up until it was just super condensed and just to its key elements, so that nothing was kind of, we just tried to trim off all the fat, and keep it as sort of tight as we could. And that was the big sort of journey, I believe, that we sort of found in the editing was, obviously, edit 1 is not going to be the final, That's for sure. Mm-hmm.
Was there a change in the edit going from original creation to like platform? Now that you're on a platform through YouTube, This Is Drama, did you have a change in delivering it there and delivering it to your website? And your website just launched this past week, right, on the 16th, and it's a fantastic site, by the way. I really loved it. I actually found a secret back door a few weeks ago that I linked to in our blog, which you were unaware of, and I was unaware of that it was a secret backdoor. It was that page 6 sort of access to represent the website.
Wow.
Sorry about that, but it's an amazing website. The way you delivered is great. But tell us a little bit about the change in terms of the platform and launching the site. Did you do a lot of change in that edit?
No, we didn't. I mean, what we had locked this back in the fall because we were initially going to release this entirely independently back in November. I think the 3rd week of November. And so that the real change was going from 9 scripts to 10 episodes. That's where the real change happened. When we had it ready for the site, we kept it exactly as it was for both This Is Drama and for Whatever Linda. There was no shift. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. So this one's for Linda. Since you were involved with the writing of it, how long did you end up? You've written a piece, you've got the concept of it, but how long did you actually craft it afterwards? Like, how many months are we talking here?
Because we had to get a few scripts in initially for some of the funding applications, we did have 3 scripts ready in May. And that was a steep learning curve even back then, just to see like how do we pace this up and how do we cram a lot of story into 9 pages or 7 pages. And then after we got that funding, when we found out about that in June, was when we started to break story. So we did in fact treat it a bit like a miniature writer's room, where we did break story for a number of weeks, and then from there we started to Julian and I started to write the scripts, and that was a number of months. And the thing about that was, I mean, thankfully we have really intelligent people working around us. Like I would say Mackenzie, Matt, James Millward at Schoolification, like were giving us story notes in the same way that a production company might. So in some ways we were mimicking that. It was very collaborative, and so it probably taken 3 months, I guess, the full writing of it total. For 60-ish minutes of content is, I think it's actually pretty reasonable in some ways. Yeah.
So for Hannah, at what point did Touchpoint Films come into place, where Matt and Kevin showed up? Was it early in the writing process? Were you already imagining what it would look like? And then how did they move forward with you as helping you with that writing process?
Right. Okay. So when we started to envision and create this project, the first thing we did was actually create a trailer. So before the writing of the scripts, we had a log line, a vision, a template of what it was we wanted to create, how many characters we wanted there to be in this. And that's actually when we brought Matt aboard, discussing like what we thought sort of like cross-pollination of genres or show ideas would be influencing this and shaping the entire tone and vision of it. And then we brought Matt aboard, and Matt had obviously, well, not obviously, I'm telling you, obviously, great ideas in terms of where we should take it. So I feel like all of it, in a way, we galvanized the tone of the writing by making the trailer. So our first initial trailer, which is somewhere online and can be found, has, sees me going through the decades. It has me starting in the 70s, going through the 80s, 90s, and today. And we originally were going to jump around that way and go through the decades in the same way that, Bernie Madoff had a 35-year-long bond. That turned out to be way too much, way too much. And actually, that's when Kevin comes aboard, when we finally seem like we're getting, we're going to get the funding. And Kevin was like a wonderful bright light of experience and insight and wisdom, and also like Kevin's a really rad guy and really personable, and so it truly, and so it really felt like, you know, the team felt so good, you know, and that was so supportive, and everybody was so keen on it. So even though Kevin didn't have much to do with the actual scripts of it, he had everything to do with the accruing the team. Like Kevin has I don't know, how many years of experience do you have? Like 20, 30? I don't know how old you are. So we assembled an amazing team around it, so it felt really supportive.
Well, that's a good segue because I wanted to get Kevin up on the camera soon. So Kevin, you know, coming in at that date and being given that responsibility, what was it like working with his team? I mean, obviously they were pretty, they were all together, they've been working for a long time, and you're kind of coming here. Were you coming in was like, guys, let's talk about some serious stuff like the economy of doing this thing, or was it almost like a seamless transition for you?
That's a good question. I had known Matt before socially through the commercial production world. We've never worked together. James Millwood and I had done a project together a few years ago, and I knew him socially as well. But meeting the rest of the team, Mackenzie and Julian, it kind of felt seamless. I mean, we all got along in the first meeting. I think it was the bar on Queen Street. And it seemed pretty good. When I read the script, I kind of, you know, you jump into something gung-ho, not actually realizing how challenging it is going to be. But I mean, that's kind of what I do. I mean, you like a challenge. When it's too easy, something feels like it's not right. There's something going to break. If it's too easy, something's not right. So I think everyone collectively, you know, had the right stuff, and the right people were available, and the scripts were great, and the team was fantastic. It just felt good, and it was challenging, but we're only making movies. It's not like we're saving babies, so you can't really take it too seriously, and you plow through it, and you get it done.
So did you know, when you saw the trailer, was that what got you excited? What made you make the decision to move in with these guys?
The trailer had a bit to do with it. Knowing Matt had a bit to do with it. Knowing James Millwood had a bit to do with it. Matt actually showed me some of the design layouts of the early website design, and I saw the world that it was going to live in, and I think that resonated because I like that aesthetic and that style. So a bunch of little pieces that. And this is Mackenzie. This is Mackenzie Donaldson.
So that's a nice segue. Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, guys. I'm here.
Hi. So let's ask a bit about that in terms of the production aspect. So Touch Point comes on, and when do you start planning a shooting schedule, and how long did it take to shoot the 9 that became 10 episodes? When did you shoot it? It looked like there was a couple of outside shots, but most of it seemed to be indoors on a small stage. How was the process of finding crew and getting ready to do that adventure?
Wow. So we kind of...
When did Rob come on?
Or DP?
Rob came on early. I think we started prepping in like September for the big chunks, the big pieces. Director of photography, starting a little bit of the initial location scouting, just talking about overall style and stuff, production designer. But I think once we had the funding, which was October-ish,
well, that's when the money came in.
It started kind of hardcore pre-prep, we call it. And that's putting together larger pieces. We started real prep for the job, for the show. Early December, we borrowed a space in a production company partner's office, Henry Les Productions. We invaded space with 12 racks of period wardrobe.
Right.
We had to go location scouting, and on a limited budget, we had a 10-day schedule. We actually had a 9-day budget, but we had to squeeze it to 10 days because there was no way we were going shoot everything in 9.
Yeah.
So we had to find this location that could double as apartment, various floors in an office building. They also went down to New York, bars, restaurants, yeah.
3 bars. But before the prep started in November, we also sent. We did the exteriors you're talking about. We didn't even have our final shooting scripts finished, but we sent Matt and Hannah and Rob to. Julian came for a day. Oh, Julian came for a day. Yeah, you're right. I think it is. To New York, shoot for 3 days. 3 days. We hired a makeup artist down there. We grabbed bags of period clothing. This is even before we had our wardrobe designer.
Yeah.
And we location scouted on Google Maps. Thanks to this guy doing math research on the internet. We picked like the buildings and exteriors that looked like they were straight from the 70s, and they shot for three and a half days.
Yep.
Like, Hannah walked down the street looking happy and sad.
Yeah, we had kind of an idea of some shots that we needed. You know, I had read somewhere that Mean Streets was basically all shot in LA, except for the exteriors, you know. And so I was kind of intrigued by that idea, and I watched Mean Streets again and kind of realized, oh, well, you definitely need to watch out there. So I did some like researching online of like, you know, little slices of untouched New York that still kind of looked like they were, you know, in the 1970s, which is really hard to find, as we all know New York has been cleaned up so much. There's a bunch of great footage that's on the cutting room floor that maybe we should try to get out
there. Totally get up there.
We found this like great vintage car dealership, and I have this great slow motion shot of the walking past it. But then once we got a real wardrobe stylist on it, she like said, "Oh, you know those clothes are from 1981. You can't have that." And I was. Damn. I relented and said, okay, yes, right. Verisimilitude, I'm with you, I agree, and we killed a bunch of footage. Or the point, you know, you were asking about editing off the beginning, you know, no extra fat, so we didn't really have a lot of time for establishers or just shots of Linda kind of walking through New York, even though we have all this kind of great, you know, money stuff against vintage New York backgrounds. That a lot of that stuff just went to the floor because if the shot didn't move the story forward, we killed it, you know.
So, doing that first 3-day shoot in New York, did that give you really the fuel and the impetus to really get you going? And also, now you have some things to really show people, the actual feel and the grittiness of it and the era of it. How did that fuel you into getting into the rest of the shoot? Was that like, did that make it really real for you, Hannah?
Yeah, I would say like anything, like money or like shooting. You know, when you have something that's real, it's suddenly like, you know, you can't. It's not just a cute little idea anymore. It becomes something that you're responsible and beholden to, and it requires of you to you know, do its due and give it justice. And I mean, in terms of the role itself, I mean, it did, even though it was the direction, Matt's fine direction was look happy, look sad.
Faster, funnier.
Yeah, that kind of a thing, which are all valid, you know. I would say that it still did at least get me to start to think about, you know, the circumstances that Linda's in and how she might be feeling walking those streets, and, you know, just small little preparation in terms of like the character work that has to happen.
Yeah.
You know, when you're an actor, going deep as opposed to going broad or having width, and when you're a writer, you know, you go deep too, but you know, you have bigger responsibility.
Mackenzie, I wanted to get you in on this conversation. Can you, just for our listening audience, because you came in a little bit later, give us your name and what you're responsible for in the show?
Sure. My name is Mackenzie Donaldson, and I'm a co-executive producer on the show. I came on through Julian, who is actually just arriving to the party. He'll be joining us shortly. We are friends. Who young producer, and told me about the project, and I came on, and I met these guys actually when we were shooting
the second teaser.
Our second trailer teaser 2 years ago. And what did I do on the show?
Everything.
No, that's not true. We all did everything.
But you did a lot of everything.
I'm sort of a story editor. I guess I broke the story with them. I helped develop the characters in the room and chatted it out. I would come in after Julian and Hannah would be struggling to break the story, or, you know, we have A, B, and C, which is better, and it's like, let's do E, you know, and that kind of thing. Story notes. Casting is a big part of something that I think is a big skill set of mine, so I helped with a lot of the casting. You know, Mark McIsaac, who plays Pepper Bannerman, was a part of the project from the moment I stepped on, sort of, and we developed that character. Same with the role of Sheila, those two actresses. And then running the social media for the first year and a half, and now it's a shared responsibility that I definitely get out of that, and I don't know, lots of other things that.
So basically everything.
Yeah.
Not glamorous to talk about.
Let's give Julian a chance to jump in and introduce himself and tell us what he was doing for the production.
Well, hi guys, nice to see you all. What was I doing? Well, I from start, I guess, was the writing with Hannah, and then basically once we got to shooting, I was with Matt behind the camera. In visual terms, I was a showrunner. I wouldn't say full-fledged television showrunner, but definitely my favorite part, I think, were two things. One was sort of helping the actors find the arc of their characters. Obviously, we hired them because they're all very, very talented, but I think they liked having to chat with me about that, and because Hannah was so focused on her own performance, I think I could be our outside eye in terms of sort of seeing the vision of the show and being able to sort of carry the plot and the characters forward. And I think that was sort of, yeah, that's kind of it. I was going to say a second thing, but it will come to me, I swear. Co-creator, yeah. So co-creator, co-writer, yeah. And I think...
brought me, Hannah brought Matt, you know?
I think that was the other thing. That's what I meant to say, is that helping sort of getting people to meet each other and even some of the other actors to I like being a creative producer in the sense of bringing people together and sort of getting their sort of feel the different vibes of people, and knew we would work really well together. And so that was, I think, my best contribution, was sort of helping everyone meet.
Or writing the scripts, maybe.
Or writing the scripts, yeah, for sure. But I mean, yeah. It's a group effort. I have to say, like, Hannah and I wrote together, but then Mackenzie helped us break the story. Matt helped us break it down and make it really visual and really distill the best ideas so we could film that. And yes, definitely those nights when we were crunching on the schedule, to be able to sit with Matt and Rob and Kevin and go, okay, we need to get this done and we don't have time. So how are we going to get the exact necessity of what we need? That was a lot of fun for me, was to sort of have that challenge and to sort of think quick on our feet and find the economy in what we had written and actually see what we could actually end up shooting and still have it make sense for the actual show.
It's a very tight script, and it's a breath of fresh air in that way, because there tends to be a lot of series that spend a lot of time having unreal melodrama in order to get everything out. How much do you think you cut in terms of getting into that shooting process versus the original writing of it? And Hannah or Julian can both answer this. Do you think you lost like a third of it, or even more when it came to actually shooting?
When it came to shoot it or came to edit it?
I guess it's two steps, going from original script to shooting, because he's talking about shooting on set in terms of budget and time that you actually had, where you had to get really tight on it. And then in editing as well, you get it even tighter.
Well, for the shooting scripts, I think we would at least cut 4 or 5 pages from each of those drafts, at least, and then some of them even more, right?
The first 9 scripts were all 12 pages.
Yeah.
Or more.
And
it was like...
Yeah. And the Ponzi scheme episode was tray long. Like, it was just way too long. So I think we definitely cut a lot of that, and that was about making that as dramatically interesting as possible, but at the same time help me make sense, but making it exciting for the audience, and that they could actually understand what was going on, but at the same make it really, really help.
Which was really exciting, which was a huge learning curve for us as writers, I think. And also, you know, and then finally you have a second round of learning, which is when you're in the edit and you're seeing like, oh God, why did we write that same beat 3 times for that actor to perform? We only need it once. Let's get rid of the rest of that, and also seeing like, oh, that's a little bit trite. And anyways, so tons of learning in that regard.
It went from 9 episodes to 10 episodes in the editing room.
Wow.
Yeah.
You weren't late to the interview. No,
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to ask. There are some incredible one-liners in that script. I mean, really, you're watching something and zing, and then you're watching something and zing. Who is responsible for those one-liners? Because they had a specific style.
Could you name the line?
Yeah.
Oh, they all had different. Oh, okay.
Some were me, some were Sandra Battolini, some who was our story editor, and Marty Flanagan, our story editor. So it's I don't know. Yeah, it's all
a collaboration again. Well, it just seemed that's amazing then, because when I'm listening to it, it almost seemed like you had like a specialist comic that was just doing the one-liners, because they were seamless. They all fit perfectly. They were for different people, but they kind of all had the same feel and style, and it really set the pace for the comedy side of this show.
People, so that's just the way it is, man.
Humble as you may seem.
Writing with Hannah, like it was especially with Annabelle's lines, like we really tried to do was just make each other laugh with the most ridiculous lines that she could say, and then sitting back and saying, okay, does this really fit? Is this too ridiculous? So I think we had some really great lines that we even had to cut, and so I think again it was sort of that uniformity of vision and tone, and making sure that even if they were hilarious lines, like I don't know if she would say that or that kind of fits.
Well, I think it was really interesting though, trying to decide how far we go with the comedy. Because comedy, like I love comedy and I feel really comfortable in comedy, but do you want something to be slapstick? Do you want something to not ring true? Like how far do you go with the wah and that sort of thing? So we did have those. I had a sense of that in my mind, because I was actually worried about some of the comedy and how far we were going with it. I was actually like, oh God, okay, is it too much? I mean, thankfully Matt also has a great comedy brain, and so he was able to see that in the edit and see that in the shooting of it, and it's just so much fun with comedy. It's just so much fun to come up with one-liners. You know what I mean? We had a blast doing it.
And I think to me, you were sort of speaking about the tone, and we always talked about the Coen brothers, and I kept on thinking of Fargo. Like that really balances like absurd humor, but then follows it up with like a deep moment of pathos. So like I'm hungry now. Like I want pancakes. Like really dumb stuff. The Coen brothers can be incredibly broad and over the top, and I think broad and over the top sometimes gets a bad rap. And we found that I think some of the strongest transitions in the series are when you go from like a really dumb joke to a moment of emotional weight. I think there's a scene where there's dragging, no spoilers, but like dragging a dead body, and then there's a really dumb joke that Annabelle does. And then there's really sad music, and the next scene of they're driving through New York to dispose of the body. And in the edit, for some reason, we're like, why would you tonally jump from that to that? And I can't really explain it, but I think it works.
Yeah.
I hope it does. And I hope that people kind of look at the show and kind of get the tone, because I think tone juggling is probably the most interesting thing that you can do in film. And if you can pull it off, then it's a great thing. So I hope we did that.
Yeah. And definitely, The Sopranos was a touchstone, at least for me, because they can like whack somebody and it could be hilarious. So I think it's again, you're right. It's about tone and finding right weight.
I want to talk about that for a little bit. There are quite a few like homages and influences in here, and let's talk a little bit about from a writing angle, and then we'll talk about it from a directing angle. But like I see some Scorsese-isms in here, Coen brothers, which you mentioned, Ted Demme, like something like Blow, when Casino, Goodfellas. It really has that edgy feel. It places you in the reality of it. in terms of writing, Hannah and Julian, did it come from your love of that kind of stuff, or was there something in particular you were going to? Because it's quite a serious backdrop, a Ponzi scheme, but it really has these layers of dark and gritty and desperate, and then comedy on top. So where did that come from in terms of the idea itself and the writing of it?
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, as you said, I would say, like, straight up, just with the topic that we're working with, which is a Ponzi scheme, and somebody running a 30-year Ponzi scheme, and $65 billion being built, and people's lives being ruined. Like, that is dark. And sometimes darkness has great levity to it, and has great potential for humor. So those two things, I feel like, mirrored themselves beautifully, and felt like a great way for us to, like, have an entry point with it, you know? I mean, some of the movies we talked about when we were writing this were Margin Call, just in terms of turning dry stuff into something that's a little more active and interesting. You know, sort of like, Matt would always say, you know, those zinger words, you don't always understand it, but you believe it. And when you talk about a Ponzi.
Margin Call
was good. And, you know, 9 to 5 is being sort of like a rah-rah, a bit of a broad, you know, feminist movie, you know, that we reference, a goofy one, you know, an unmarried woman.
Unmarried woman,
was another one that we were thinking of. And Sopranos, we talked about that too, that their ability to you know, have depth and also to have comedy. Even though I think ours is a bit more broad than that, or goofy than that.
And I have to say something too. When we were breaking this story, Breaking Bad was ending. Yeah, so you have to remember we were watching that and talking about it like everyone else that loves television and movies. And like, you know, a lot of our a lot of people are like, we always struggle with Linda's not very relatable. Linda's not very nice. She's not a good person. Why would we watch the show? Why are people going to be drawn to her? And that was knowing that people were able to be drawn to Walter made up, like, kept being kind of a touchstone for us to be like, no, like, we can make her lovable. We can make her like, you know.
And Linda's almost a combination of Skylar and Walter in one. Because she has this arc where she's coming from such a desperate place and has to deal with the reality, but then owns it like Walter owns it, and becomes that person.
So does
it's
Skylar.
Really well done.
I love that. But yeah, and also, it's always, for me as a writer and as a TV watcher, like starting from the Larry Sanders Show, I've always really admired shows that can to tell a dramatic story, but everything's always undercut with a joke and humor. And I think I kind of live my life that way. And like when things get a little bit too serious, I feel like, well, can't we just get along? Can't we just have a little laugh here? So I think that's sort of the kind of writing that I like to subscribe to. It's the kind of writing that I find interesting. And I could never just write a straight drama, I don't think. I kind of get bored with it. I feel like there would have to be some sort of comedic element.
Okay, I've got a bit of an extended question here for everybody on set. I want you to describe for our listening audience what is the primary difference for you in your role between doing a web series compared to doing more of a traditional production.
Well, I can start there. You know, for me, a traditional production would be a commercial because that's where I sort of come from, the ad world. And so 30 seconds, and you know, I think looking at the script when it was originally 72 minutes long, I was like, oh my God, that's 144 commercials. What have I? So I just the idea of really expanding as opposed to contracting, I think, was a big thing that I'm always trying to boil down a character to its like, you know, most base sort of stupid element, and this was a really nice opportunity to kind of like expand outwards and get people sort of contrasting sort of traits, and I think that was a lot of fun for me, and really just sort of trying to prove to myself and hopefully to others that I'm capable of doing long-form content. You know, I want to make a movie next, and this was a real chance for me to just really kind of exercise those chops, and it was so much fun and rewarding.
But from a production standpoint, we treated this like any movie or TV show. We had a set amount of prep in the office with all the team members, creative people, prepping and working towards the shooting schedule that we had to get. We filled it up with the amount of people that it takes to shoot or be black or maybe a couple less, but we had a full crew of 40 people on a daily basis in our studio location for 2 weeks. It was a big.
And it felt like it for sure. Just the vibe on set. It felt like we're playing for real here. I mean, everyone loved being there, and we all loved each other. So it's sort of like you're working with your friends, which doesn't feel like work at the end of the day. But I think having produced a feature, it did feel like that, or being on real TV sets as an actor. It definitely didn't feel amateur. That's for sure.
We had a caterer and craft service.
The caterer was not ish.
And I'd also say that, I mean, this is the biggest thing that I've done as a writer. I've done short films before this. And I would say that one of the things that, and I've talked about this a few times, but in various interviews and that sort of thing, but one of the things that I think was really smart of us to do and beneficial for us was that we have someone like Kevin who has so much experience as a producer, but then we had a very amateur focus puller. We had people at very different stages in their career. We had a 35-year-long sound guy, which was vital, but we've got younger people, less experienced people doing B-cam. So I think what we really did with this, knowing what our budget was to ask people to come on board, to take a role that they could have some authorship and ownership about, and also feel proud about, but also to further their career in whatever way that they were looking for. So I think you don't get that on something like a huge TV show where you need to have, there are so many people and so much money riding on it. Not that there wasn't here, but it's a different ball game, and we tried our best to I don't want to say emulate that, but we tried our best to do our own best version of what we could do, and that meant giving people chances, and that meant where we couldn't risk things, getting in the pros.
For me, it was really cool because I've been working on Orphan Black for the last 3 years, and at this time we were shooting season 2. When we shot Linda, we were shooting season 2 of Orphan Black here in Toronto, and I was the assistant to the showrunners, and on Linda, I got to take on the job of the people that I assist on Orphan Black. So I got to bring all of my experiences of assisting these people, and then I got to do their job on my own project, and it was like you said, it was giving me a chance to know I can do that, and that I love to do that, and then doing the right thing. So again, that was something that was sort of amazing for me, coming to set and seeing all these people working for us. It was really cool for those 10 days. Really
nice. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about the crew that is in here, the people who really represented. The production design on this is amazing and feels so fresh and alive, even though we're talking about a period piece in 1978. The wardrobe, the hair, makeup is fantastic, and if there could be bigger shoulders and furs and layers of color, I don't know if you could find it anywhere. It was amazing. The cinematography that presented all of that stuff, and even the soundtrack, which is chock full. I've been listening to it actually all day while I've been doing work today. Speak a bit and each take a piece and talk about the part that you really like the best about those few things. And let's start with Hannah.
Sure. Well, it's hard to say what I like the best. I'm not playing that game, but because I did just from our makeup artist who was watching us. Hi, Jess. Jessica Panetta is a master at what she does, and also she really delved into the world. She had so many references. She did so much research into what she thought each character would be, And those 4 women, it's so important to have them be distinctive, but also and have their own sense of style, and also see Linda go from who she was to who she becomes, even in the first season. And so Jess was somebody who was able to really take that on and eloquently speak with Matt about it when we were interviewing to see who would be best for this. She really came with a true vision of what she wanted. She goes very deep. It's not a superficial thing, this makeup world. And even in the hairstyles as well, the discussion between would Dee Dee have an afro or not at that point? Would she have relaxed her hair with a relaxing perm? These were important elements of this. And the other part about Jess is that she, besides being a true professional, she's also got a really big heart. So it's one of those things where, as an actor, when you go back to the makeup room, you want to sort of recharge. You know, you want to have those intimate conversations where, like, somebody's really in your corner, and Jess is absolutely like that. So that's what I'll talk to.
And her assistant as well.
And her assistant, Christina Spina. Both of them, dream team. Dream team.
I guess wardrobe too was.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, you have to understand these women. Jess, Joanna, Christina. Like,
Joanna Siracomla was our wardrobe person, an amazing woman with lots of experience from $1 million TV shows down to web series.
So, you know, she, luckily she collects clothes, and she had a whole collection of clothes in the 70s. Horse. So she got to display them, and we thank her to the ends of the earth for letting us use.
Was that a bit of a candy store then, in terms of being able to look at a whole collection and design your frame from that palette and just really work with it?
Well, she did that work, you know, and it was tireless and uncompromising. You know, when she looked at our exterior footage, as Matt mentioned, in New York, she's like, "We can't use that. We can't use that."
It really is exactly 1978. There is no 1977. There is no 1979. Like, that is how women dressed in 1978, without exception. Yeah. She was so hardcore. Amazing.
And you know, these three women we gave them peanuts as a budget, because, you know, compared to what we might be paid on something bigger, and they had to dress 4 women. Sometimes had to dress them in 7 outfits in one day. You know what I mean? Like with makeup changes and hair changes that went from, oh, we're doing the last scene today as well as the first scene, you know, or like of the whole series, and they had to plan that out, and it hats off. Like, yeah.
I'm gonna pipe up for. Well, first we should say Billy Blast, who was Joanna's assistant, who had blue hair and just pissed in vinegar, pink, blue.
One day.
Yeah, she was just real great. Just one of those kind of people you want to go to the the wardrobe room and just chat with for an hour. She was a lot of fun, and she was pretty crucial as well. For me, the most rewarding thing was going, you know, to see the next set or the next set deck, and see that Michael Leach and Andrea and so many others that worked on it.
Michael Leach, Andrea Quattrocchio, right?
And they made what we wrote come to life, and they made it look so good. Like, we wanted Mr. Finkel should have a painting of himself in the room. He's like, oh, okay. And he did it. Yeah. Like, he made it, and it looked so great. And the Bitches Shrew magazine, like this, it's just.
I don't know if you saw that, but the magazine that I think made it to a trailer, might not have made it to a cut of the Bitches Shrew book with like a big afro, and then Dee Dee's like putting it down with a big afro, you know.
And that's what Dee Dee's reading, and so those kinds of touches, it just, he would make these things, and they would just appear. It was sort of like this little elf that came in and made these things, and it looked so amazing. And then just being behind the camera and watching how Matt and Rob work together, Rob DLP, Rob Scarborough. I've seen Rob work before, and it's mind-boggling how he can set up shots in so little time. Mind-boggling, and make them look so good. My hats off to you, like, genius. I have to say, like, all these people, like, it was such an honor to get to work with them.
Nice.
Something is also luck. You know what I mean? Like, straight up, we had nothing to do with it. All these people coming together. It doesn't happen all the time.
It was meant to be, as they say.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, because we're going to be running out of time soon, for people that are considering doing a web series, what advice could each of you give to the aspiring people that want to get into it or have started one? Where can they concentrate, and where do they have to learn to let go? Shall we start with Kevin?
Sure. I mean.
Okay, and Kevin, I need you to lean forward and talk loudly because you're mumbling.
I think the first thing that people need to kind of think about and concentrate on the web series is story. I mean, without the script and without the story and without the words on the page, it's kind of meaningless. It's not really meaningless, but really, you know, if you're going to attract all this amazing talent, and you have people rise to the occasion and do things above their scope of of their usual work and put blood, sweat, and tears into something. The words, the story, the script, that has to be at the core of everything. Without that, you're starting off with a very weak foot, and that's what ends up happening. We're going to be doing interviews like this, and the story wasn't good. Without that, that's the case.
Okay, Matt?
I agree with him. Story. That's always first and foremost. But because he stole my answer, I'll move on to the next thing. Because you just work with the best people, I feel kind of bad. I honestly kind of, the DP who shot the teasers, I ended up kind of not shooting the thing with him because I wanted this to look great. And there was this guy, Rob Scarborough, props to him, who shot it, and I brought him in, and he just killed it. Everyone, I want to talk about the music supervisor, like bringing him in, David Heyman. I saw a movie called The Dirties, and I saw his name as the music supervisor in the credits. And I was like, oh my God, I'm Facebook friends with that guy. I'm just going to send him an email. And I did. And I told him the idea, and he was in. And he's one of the biggest music supervisors in Canada, does all the big shows. And so just, don't, ask people, get the best possible people, best collaborators, the best team, the best actors, the best production designers, get them all involved, and everyone wants to do good work, no matter what stage of their career they're in. They all want to be involved in good stuff, and so just ask the question, get good people on board.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next, but they took my two answers, unfortunately. But I guess I'll say clarity of your idea and your concept. The more you know about it and how clear it is, the better. And I think we knew it was going to be about or inspired by these women who worked for Madoff, which was just sort of zeitgeist idea right now. It sort of seemed like, it was in the air, something that people would want to see. We hadn't seen that story before. But also from the female perspective, female anti-heroes who start out downtrodden and by the end of it are empowered and take life by the balls and ultimately succeed. And it's period. I think we took the risk of doing it in the 70s, and I think it paid off. I think it's just a really interesting time, but it's also shot and edited in a way, and music supervised in a way that it's not saturated in the period, but it's sort of come with this sort of hip modern lens that a current audience could relate to and really, really enjoy. And for sure, coming with this idea of being with the best people is can't have an ego. You just can't. And the best idea always has to win out. I'm an actor too, but I'm not in the show. But it's because it was the best decision for the show that we put together. And I think at the end of the day, it has to be about the best project and what are you trying to achieve here? Because if it's just about you, servicing your own ego or your own career, that you're not going to get anywhere, and it's going to be a roadblock to, I think, the potential of what you can actually create. So, so allowing the team to be as good as they are and just sort of take the reins, and then obviously that doesn't mean you compromise, but I think in your gut when you need to compromise and when you have to dig your heels in.
Linda, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure.
They've said it all. But I would say I'm not. You've got something new to say. All I'm going to say is up when what you guys said, which is don't just work with the best people. Work with people who are better than you. Just work with people who are better than you are. Hopefully those are the best. But don't be intimidated by the level that comes on with you. Let them give you everything you can. If I can do that for the rest of my life, I will.
Nice.
Along with that, I'm just it's not gonna be as an emotional answer, but we were really, really lucky that this guy knew James Millward, who owns Super Location, because none of us are techies. And we have a beautiful, amazing website, and we have such support from them. They know the digital landscape better than any of us do, and the funding landscape, the tech landscape. Yeah, and they're better than us at what they do, and without them, I wouldn't even know how to start to find someone to build a website. I mean, I could put it on, I could Google it, I'm sure. But you know what I mean? And they had all of that in-house, and they were able to look at our scripts, and, you know, I'm used to balancing networks and production companies, and it was like they would come in and they would never overnote us. They gave us the best notes. James was able to, like, make it for the web and in a way that we weren't quite able to do yet. And so if you're trying to make something, you've got a great idea, you've got a great base team, finding a digital company that will back you and help support you, that's bigger than you and better than you, is going to be like it's going to really, really help. It's not going to mean that you get a million hits necessarily right away or anything like that, but you're going to feel safe. And
Very nice. Awesome. So, Jadine, you get the last question of the day.
So this question is basically, what's next? You've just launched on the 16th. You have an award show coming up in Las Vegas that you guys were nominated for. What's next for Linda? What's next for the story? And to quote her, you know, pack up, because this shit just got syndicated. You guys are live and ready to go. Where are you going?
Yeah, that's a magic question. You know, I would say, like, right now what we're doing is we're really focusing on the fact that we just released, and we humbly believe that it's going to take some time, right? It's going to take some time to get the audience we want to connect with, the audience who's going to like this, to see it. You know, and we were able to do that, I think, with the festivals and stuff like that. But now in the wild west of the web, like, where do we do that? So I think that's the next many months of work that we're doing. And alongside that is we have had long conversations about the next seasons, but really hammering down what those are going to be. You know, and actually it's funny because we listened to your podcast about our show and loved it. But also, you know, you actually made me think about, like, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll pick that one. So maybe I'll be talking to you guys later.
I personally believe that you should jump ahead to 1982, and she should be an intern at Sugar Hill Records, and she should start bilking the early rap moguls out of their dollars. I think season 2 should be 80s New York rap music. That's just that's.
Is that what the question was?
That's like Matt's whole. That's where Matt
more hip hop.
1982 hip hop. What's next for this series? Like, where does it go from here? Whether that's the life of it or the next seasons or whatever. Right?
Well, definitely. I mean, from Wall Street in the 80s and up to the financial crisis was a pretty interesting time in real history. So I think definitely borrowing from that and the Madoff story and his rise, and maybe let's meet Madoff. Let's cast a real big celebrity as our Barney rather, and he can be a really cool Michael Douglas, you know. And he could be a really sort of a force to be reckoned with, as well as sort of the SEC, the financial regulators who played such a big part in this. I think that's a really great angle that we could play as well. Once Linda starts to spiral out of control.
Right. But there are other exciting things. Like, I mean,
sure.
We have some thematic things that we're sort of stoked about. And
yeah, we're nominated for awards in Vegas, and then the Indie Series Awards. So, you know, doing all that kind of stuff and find our audiences the most.
And how far has it been going to events like that and having the opportunity? Do the awards say a lot to you? Is it more about the competition that you're in, or is it about getting the acknowledgement for you've created something pretty cool, and I think you deserve everything you got. I mean, you got 3 awards at Vancouver Web Fest, were nominated in 6, and you're up against some tough competition. How do you feel about awards, and how do you feel about what that can do with the show and for the show?
It's so exciting. Like, to be honest, I mean, it's the first fest we got to go to, because we haven't been able to go to all of the ones we got into by Zoom. The 3 of us went to Vermont to the ITV festival there, and it was the first time we got to watch the show with an audience. And honestly, like, when we lose the awards, watching with an audience and hearing them laugh and getting to see them come up to you afterwards and talk to you, and like, there was the most touching moment with this woman that came up to Hannah after watching it, and I'll let her talk about that if she wants to. But, you know, just for me, like the awards, yeah, everyone likes the pudding, but like honestly, like that, and it gets people like you guys to see it, and then people watch this now and hopefully watch the show after. You know, like there's no question that the traditional route of the awards and the festival circuit is very important to web content, because it's not the same as having a network that does all the work for you for a TV show. So that's important. But for me personally, it's getting people to come up to you and like be touched by the art that you worked for 2 years on. That means them. That's the most exciting thing. I think for most of us.
Yeah, it's audience building. It's these award shows and all those laurels that those are superficial. That it's like a press junket. You know, it's a cheap way to do a press junket like a regular feature would be. You get in these awards, you're seen, your names are out there, the show's out there. Really about cultivating that.
Cool. Julian, do you want to throw your 10 cents in?
10 cents for what?
Wow, there you blew it. Yeah, you leave the room, you know.
I'm trying to coordinate something outside the room there. My fault.
Always working, dude.
I got it.
Asking about the
It was, yeah, how are you being affected by the awards? Are you insisting on valet parking now, stuff like that?
Green M&Ms in the bowl, that's all I want. Yeah, I think, okay, selfishly, yeah, it's pretty nice to win an award, obviously, but it really is nice just to be recognized, and the web series community is such a big one and a strong one and a loving one, and to be a part of something like that. And I think we're only as strong together. We're only strong, I think, together rather than by ourselves. So I think it's about trying to find a different community, which is that community, and sort of galvanizing each other and coming together and trying to elevate the medium itself to a better spot. So getting to meet all these different web series creators, and so I'm going to Vegas for the IWTV Awards, and already someone's helped me like organize a ride from LA to Las Vegas, and you should go to this hotel and that, and so it's just meeting a whole different group of people. Even at South by Southwest, we got to meet the high maintenance creators, and they become friends. Like they're just so generous and lovely. So it's just about meeting more and more people, building your audience, and
CSAs was pretty cool.
And the CSAs, yeah, like
just to be there as a nominee.
Totally, and we've all worked in Toronto for up to 10 years, you know, and so to be recognized by that community, and sometimes a community that might not open the door to you. It's nice to go there as someone who's being recognized, and the kind of conversations you can have when someone looks at you a different way are really, really special and also pretty.
And also, we all feel like we have authority on this. Like we all feel like we own a bit of it. You know, it doesn't feel like it's arm's length. It feels like it's immediate. It feels like it's ours, and that's really cool.
Nice. Let's wrap up the show with Matt getting a chance to answer this question, and then we'll throw it over to Jay Dean to close us out.
Oh, I'm going to answer that question. Yeah, I see. So, absolutely, 100%. It's great, and I think it really is just about the, not the awards. It sounds like such a cliche, but it really is true about like somebody coming up to you, or just actually watching the audience. I think at the end of episode 4, that time in Vermont, like, this doesn't have to be our only haul. We could do this again. And then I saw this kid just go, and I was just like, oh my goodness, just to elicit that reaction from somebody is so cool, and just to actually see that live, just watching what you're doing in another room with people, and maybe that's the thing that you get at festivals that you don't actually get on the web, is like this sort of like human response, and actually seeing that, and that's really the most rewarding thing. That's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Mackenzie. This is a show that I think is incredible and that everybody needs to check out. Go to whateverlinda.com. On Twitter, it's whatev, E-V, Linda. Facebook, it's whatever Linda. Also check out touchpointfilms.com. thesecretlocation.com, and on their platform as well, thisisdrama.com, where you'll find all the shows. Thank you so much for creating something so unique, so special, and also so well done. So strong, guys. I bow in your presence because it's amazing stuff. It's really good, and it says a lot for the present of digital content. It says a lot for the future of digital content. Thanks so much for being on here today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.